if you play Eve Echoes and watch these videos, you probably know who Captain Benzie is. He's one of the premier, if not the premier, content creator for Eve Echoes, and puts out a lot of content. I mean, let's be honest here. He's probably done more to grow the game through YouTube search and other things like that than anybody else in the history of Eve Echoes. I mean, I don't feel like that's unreasonable to say. But when he has said in some recent videos that he's not excited for capital ships, I was actually really surprised. Now, he has kind of hinted at a couple of things, and we were talking on a CTA yesterday or the day before about a recent video that he launched about the 5 things he wished that he saw instead of capitals. And so I thought it would be interesting to see what his perspective is. So today what I want to do is go ahead and watch his video here with you guys and kind of give you my honest reactions and just kind of see what he's saying. Now, I am going to go ahead and preface this with I haven't seen this, but I have heard some rumblings about things that he talks about here. So I do have a couple of opinions, but by and large, this is going to be coming at me fresh. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and say before we get started that I am going to likely fast forward a little bit through parts where I either agree with him or there's just not much going on because I think his video is like 16 minutes long and I typically don't like to make videos that are super long. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video now and we'll jump in.
Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another video for Eve Echoes.
Love him or
Today's
hate him,
video
you
is
gotta
another
respect the
list,
fact
because
that
apparently
he's
you
got
folks quite
the
enjoy these.
intro
but instead
down.
of ranking places I want to see added, my favourite nebulae, ranking the weapon systems or faction frigates, today we're looking at the 5 things I wish they had added before adding capital ships. Now look, I'm glad that the folks who want to fly capital ships are going to be able to do so. I just don't really think that Eve Echoes has enough of the right kind of content to support them yet. I've gone over this at length on other videos though, so
Don't know if I
be
agree
sure
with
to
that.
check those out if you're curious.
I think
as
if
to
you're
why I'm
doing a lot of
personally not
nullsec,
very excited.
capitals have a
Yes,
lot of
it's
use
true that
cases,
Eve
but
Echoes is a long-term game, and so the time may come when that content is added and capital ships do become more useful.
that I agree
But
with.
since that content isn't here yet, well, I wish the
I think
time
we
and
definitely
effort
need to
had been
be
spent
kind of thinking
elsewhere.
long-term,
But
but
what, you ask? Well,
I don't know
that's what
if
this video's for.
saying that
And if you do
it's
enjoy
completely
this,
useless
please
to
help me
put
out by
capitals
smacking that
in
like button
right
and
now,
dropping a sub to the channel.
that seems a little
Seriously,
off to me.
It really helps. Alright then, here we go. 5 things I wish they'd added before capitals. And before you stress yourself out about the order, this video isn't really in one. It's just 5 things
And
as
ad
I thought
incoming.
of them.
Ooh, that is a sexy transition. I need to get me some of those.
Exploration is in a pretty dire situation right now.
Yes,
As I'm
it
recording
is.
this, it's been almost 2 months since Exploration launched, and I am still getting daily messages from folks asking what they're doing wrong because they followed my guides and still can't find any relic or data sites. The thing is,
Now, I'm going to completely agree with him here. I'm just going to go ahead and stop it. But yes, I think that exploration definitely does need a little bit of tweaking. The spawn sites right now are just way too slow or small. I'm expecting them to put some of the capital mods, maybe it's blueprints mod for mods or just blueprints in general, into exploration sites. But I completely agree with him here. It's definitely something that I would love to see tweaked. I don't think it would be a big tweak, but who knows?
thing is, they're not doing anything wrong. Woo. In EVE Online, however, there's a whole mini-game that's kind of like a cross between Minesweeper and some kind of crazy
Oh, that looks
strategy
cool.
board game. Essentially, you maneuver a virus through a web of nodes, attacking defensive subsystems, and using the information
That looks really cool,
to
actually.
find the system core. It's great fun, and whilst skills can make it slightly easier by increasing your margin
Yeah, I
of
want
error,
that.
it still comes down
That
to
would be
player skill
awesome.
and knowledge to actually open the more difficult caches. Now, of course, whilst it would be pointless without the fix to exploration spawn rates, as exciting content is all well and good, but not if folks can't access it, adding this would add massive variety to Eve Echoes by generating an entirely new playstyle and something else for new players to do and engage with.
Yep, I agree with that. 100%. God, I love that
Speaking
transition.
of adding variety to Eve Echoes, I think one of the biggest changes or additions to the game we could get is to the mission system. Now, in Eve Echoes, let's be honest, missions are basically warp in, kill wave 1, kill wave 2, kill wave 3, kill wave 4, fight off the urge to fall asleep, and then move to the next one.
Fight off the urge
It's
to fall
not
asleep,
exactly
fair
the
enough.
thrilling of content to engage with, is it? Now, in EVE Online, missions are very, very different. For starters, they follow actual stories. You complete the first mission, then the second one
I
unlocks,
agree
and
with
the
him to
whole
some
thing
extent here,
tells
but
a
I don't know if I'd
story
put it
of
on a list of
strength.
things I'd rather have before
Beyond this, there's a
Dreads.
lot of variety to
Don't get me
what you
wrong, I think
actually
that
have to
if
do
you're
in those
playing missions and running
The new
them, yeah,
tutorial
I'm
system
sure
in Eve
it's
Echoes involving
boring
flying
and
alongside the
you'd like
DED
some
shows that this kind
differences.
of content
But most of the
is
people that are running
definitely
stories at this
possible.
point, I feel
Now,
like are
imagine for a moment
using
that a
faction
hauler
battleships
delivering precious
or
supplies has failed to show
just
up at a station.
they don't really
Firstly, you need
care
to
about the
investigate
story,
the
right?
wreckage
You're
to see
doing
what
it and you're trying to
happened.
burn and
It's
churn as quickly
derelict,
as
but whilst
possible
you're
just to get
investigating, some
ISK.
pirates
So
show
I
up,
don't
and,
know
well,
if
you take them down.
the
Now, we have a
content
lead on
aspect
who
of that
attacked the
really
hauler,
is going to make
but
that
you
much of a
need more
difference.
info. So you jump
Again,
back out
maybe
and
that's just
act as
me,
an
but
escort for
I
another
don't think that
hauler.
this is
And
something
when
that I
those
would
pirates
say
show
I'd want
up again,
instead of
you fight
Dreads,
off a
especially
few
because
waves until you find a decoder on
I
one
play
pirate
as a nullsec
that hooks
player
you into
and
their
I
comms
just don't
network.
really
Now this allows you to find out
care
who
about
their
missions
boss
unless
is.
I'm hunting
You
mission
fly out
runners.
and attack
That's just me
until the
though.
boss. Okay, I'll admit that this one is just a bit wishy-washy, and I've talked about this at length in other videos, but considering how much I talked for number 2, I needed something a little shorter for number 3 while I catch my breath. For the most part, things are pretty good in Eve
So
Echoes
this
right
is
now
a
as far
this
as
is a
balance
Benzie
is
special.
concerned.
If
Most
you
weapons are
knew
useful, and they give meaningful
if you've watched any of
choices.
his
Armor
videos,
tanking
you know that
shield
he's a
tanking
frigate
both feel
and
pretty
a
good in
destroyer
different
pilot.
situations, and there's a
I'm
good
not
amount
shocked to
of
hear
ship
him say that
variety.
he's wanting more
With a few
variety,
exceptions.
ships,
Frigates
whatever.
are in a bad way. Interceptors are overpowered, exploration frigates
Okay,
lack
yes, I
slots,
will agree with
stealth
that.
bombers can't
I
apply
mean,
their
but this is
damage,
just general balance.
and
We
where
know
the
that this is
heck
coming
is the
already.
Rifter?
I don't know I would
Destroyers, however,
worry about
are
it too
even
much about it.
worse. Tech 10 added semi-useful assault destroyers, but
I don't
even
know.
then the Algos and especially the Korax are massively outclassed.
So I really do agree with what he's saying that we need to balance things. I don't necessarily know if I would say that we need to have the Rifter and, you know, some of these other ships added because at the end of the day, and this is one that I had a little bit of time to think about because, again, I've seen Benzie's videos, and I agree with him that frigates and destroyers need some help, or less help in the case of interceptors. But at the end of the day, you're still playing the same game. You're getting some shiny new toys, but it's not really changing the strategic view of Eve Echoes if you just add a Rifter, right? Or a Tristan or fill in the blank. I think what's interesting about Dreads is that they are going to change the way that nullsec alliances play, whether that's from an Indy perspective or a, you know, just a line pilot or whatever. It's going to make a material difference to the overall meta and the overall strategy of the game. Whereas I don't think that adding just more ships or more varieties of ships necessarily would. Now there's some changes to that, and I think Sinos would be a big thing, and like Covop's destroyers, stuff like that. But by and large, I don't know if I necessarily agree with them. I agree that there definitely needs to be a lot of balance changes, especially for like inties, but again, I don't know that I necessarily am surprised by him saying this, but I'm also not necessarily in 100% agreement with it.
Classed, and don't get me. Oh boy, this is the big one that always stirs up a
Here we
hornet's
go.
nest in the comment section below. Now, whilst many folks will point the finger at the flawed insurance system
As they
the
should.
reason the industry is suffering, I feel this isn't entirely accurate. I feel the considerably bigger issue is the race to the bottom we've all been experiencing since day one of Eve Echoes. Mining progression in Eve Echoes involves getting a bigger mining hold and higher efficiency lasers, basically mining faster and faster as you climb the tech levels. Now, all this means is that a Tech 10 player generates a whole ton of ore, and a Tech 5 player generates significantly less. Nothing meaningful.
I'm sorry,
fair.
what?
It's all about harvesting ore faster and faster and faster, which
Yes.
seems fine on the surface, and it's kind of an exciting thing. Oh, I can harvest more ore, and I can harvest it even faster now. Until you realize that almost nothing is making a dent in the huge stockpiles of ore that we already have sitting around. Now, what happens when you have a whole ton of something more than anyone can use? Well, basic market economics will answer that question fairly comfortably. It drops in value. We have huge stockpiles of ore in Eve Echoes, and
Okay, time out. Benzie, I love you. If you're watching this video, which I'm thrilled that you're here, but Okay, so I understand what he's saying, and that there's not a reason to keep crafting. Industry doesn't have a motivation. I agree with that 100%. But to say that insurance isn't the issue, and then to say basic economics, like, those two things do not, like, that does not compute. So I could do a whole video on this, and if you guys want me to, I'll do it down in the comments below about why this is wrong. But the base reason for this, and Benzie knows this because he's in the content creator group as well, and there have been multiple posts, I shouldn't say multiple, I know there's been at least one post from the devs saying that they know that buy orders are not being generated at the right level. We've tested this with insurance centers. Like, we know that this is happening. And so he's right that there is a stockpile of ore, and there's like just backlogs of things because people aren't building ships and aren't using these materials. But to say that it's because insurance isn't broken, or to say that insurance is only partially to blame, I think is really misleading, because in the exact way that he's saying you can't ever use this, the reason people aren't using it is because it's not profitable to use it. If you look at the way that the insurance system is set up, I get my ship back, and there may or may not be a buy order that's generated. And so we are just creating something out of nothing, and that's inflating the supply. This is not to say that it's inflation, it's just inflating the supply, which, again, back to his point, basic economics, that drives the price down. So yes, I agree, Benzie, there is a problem with the basic economics, but that problem is directly linked to insurance. Like, I'm going to keep playing this because I don't understand what he's saying here, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but that what he's saying is not right.
Crafting just is not removing it from the game. And yes, you can make the argument that ultimately insurance being added has reduced the amount of crafting going on, thereby
It's killed
the amount
crafting.
of ore and materials being destroyed from the system. However, if insurance is here to stay, we need to stop using it as a scapegoat and look for actual meaningful systems.
Okay,
Basically, this just means the ore is getting cheaper and cheaper.
Just because something is here to stay does not mean it cannot be improved. Like, yes, I agree, insurance is here to stay, but there are intelligent ways to do it. And I've made actually a whole video about how I think that they can do this that I think is still relevant, because they haven't really changed anything since I made that video. But yeah, like, yes, it's here to stay. We can take advantage of it, but we also should, like, provide feedback and try to get it changed, because it is broken right now.
Cheaper, and it's impossible to profit from it unless you're in a fully tricked out Coveter 2. Sure, we could add the porpoise and orca, and we could add mining foreman links, etc. to make mining even faster, but all that's going to do is increase the stockpiles and devalue ore even more.
Yeah.
What we need, however,
again,
is
I
a
agree with you.
complete overhaul of blueprints to use less ISK but more minerals. Also, reducing the amount of minerals that get reprocessed from ore could help make ore more valuable, and maybe even events where Concord buys certain ore at high prices could be added. This
again, that makes sense. I like that. I like that a lot.
Win-win.
I don't know if I...
You could also argue that adding belt rats could spice things up for miners, making it a bit more interactive, thus also making mining ore harder to harvest, and therefore more valuable. Now, all of this goes a ways to assisting struggling industry. You know what doesn't help, however? Capitals. We know that the components don't use all that much ore, and that ISK is by far the limiting factor in all of these ships' construction. It's also unlikely that demand for these will be all that large, meaning, well, nothing good for industry after the initial rush to build all these capitals dies out.
Disagree with that completely.
It's a short burst that doesn't really fix anything.
I disagree with that completely. So, all right, before we go into his last point here, there's not going to be demand for capitals, I completely disagree. If you look at the way that people are upgrading citadels, if you look at the way that people are dropping Sov, nullsec alliances are paying out good money on, structures, citadels, whatever. Those are going to be less than the cost of a dreadnought, just as of right now, and kind of what we're expecting. So I don't really understand. And again, maybe I'm missing something here, but nullsec PvP warfare is going to become who has the most Dreadnaughts. There will be some modifiers in that, or some outliers, but if I have 15 Dreadnaughts and you have 10 Dreadnaughts, my Dreadnaughts will kill all of your Dreadnaughts, and then we will kill your Citadel, or whatever it is, right? Like, I understand, like, his comment of it's a one-time purchase, but so is a Citadel, and I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that one. I just have issues with that whole that whole point. But I mean, I hear what he's saying, and I agree. I would like to see insurance balanced. I think that would be my spin on this, is that I would like to see insurance balanced more so than having a Dreadnought. That would be the priority in my mind. But that being said, again, like, I don't think that the way that he's phrasing it here is what I would prefer to have in front of a Dreadnought. But
if you remember the run-up to Eve Echoes launch, NetEase made this big show of announcing that they were adding an entire new faction to the game, the Yunjung. The Yunjung do exist in the lore of EVE Online as well, supposedly the first to
I do actually
settle in
remember
New
this.
Eden and masters of warp technology. They're never actually seen in the game though, outside of a few nods and references in some text here and there. Eve Echoes, however, was going to change this by adding exciting new ships and a whole new weapon system, the Decomposer. Well, we got the Shan-Yue prototype and the Kan-Yue prototype.
I'm not going to lie, it would be kind of fun to play with these ships. Again, it's kind of back to my other
also show the non-prototype versions of these and how
other point, I guess, of I don't think that these really change the meta of the game, and I really
want the
I would
Shan-Yue
like
destroyer.
to see them, but
So where are they? Well, it's been
I don't
over
know.
a
I'm
year
not
since
a
launch, and we have
huge,
almost no
like,
more
beating down the
information
door
about
on
these
these,
ships, nor
so
any way to get the fittings
I don't
and
know.
prototypes that we originally had as login rewards, which means if you lost those or destroyed them and fancy going back and trying them out again, well, you're straight out of luck. It's not going.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what he's saying. I mean, it would be nice to have this faction, and I briefly played with the Destroyer, and it was fun. It was like, it was a different type of play style. I personally have never really been a Decomposer person, just because I didn't know enough about Eve in general to know what they were or weren't. And so I just kind of stuck with missiles for a little bit, and then transitioned into cannons as I learned more, and all of that, and then drones and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, yeah, I guess, again, I don't think that I would put these in front of Capitals. I think that I would maybe, like, it'd be a nice addition with some other stuff, but again, it's just, it doesn't change the meta. It doesn't change the way that we play the game strategically. So I don't know that I really care about these. Again, for him as a destroyer pilot and a frigate pilot, yeah, this would probably be really interesting and a lot of fun to fly. I'd love to actually see some of these ships going forward, because even the prototype versions were fun. But again, I just don't know that I would necessarily put this in front of Dreads. All right, guys. Well, this video has been going on pretty long already. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I mean, I thought this was interesting. He brings up some good points. I would love to see the exploration. I would love to see some balance updates. Again, I do disagree with him on the industry side of things. I think that he's glancing over kind of the root cause of a lot of the industry problems right now. But overall, I mean, I agree that I would rather have that fixed than Dreads. Just that's me. And then the new faction and new ships and, rifters, blah, blah, all the other stuff. Like I said, I just don't really think that it changes the game that much, but that's just my opinion. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I am probably shouting into my microphone, and I've got some awesome headphone hair here. But let me know down in the comments below what you guys would think. I think that if I were to put something else on this list, I would say that I'd like to see some other type of resource that you get by holding Sov. I don't know if that would be a structure or just something natively, but something to where, like, it's generating an exclusive type of resource that the more Sov points you have, the more of this resource you get, because that to me would be an actual reason to go and fight for Sov. As it is right now, like, especially with the war with Pantheon, for example, yeah, we're fighting a war, but, like, who really cares? Like, all we're doing is going after, dots on a map. and it's creating content. Don't get me wrong, I love it and I'm enjoying it, but at the end of the day, we're gonna look and it's either gonna be people have, had a good time and blown up and we say, okay, we've had enough, or, we're just gonna keep having these skirmishes and battles, which I hope we do. But either way, it's like there's no strategic value. So I would probably say that would be my one thing that I would like to see more than dreads, is a reason to have the dreads really more. I would also love to see jump clones. That would be the other thing I think that I'd like to see in here, because while it is a pain to pilot through nullsec and all the way back to high and blah, 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 all this other stuff, if I could quickly jump between certain locations where I know that there's going to be action, or if, I'm just out of position because I had to work and suddenly there's a big battle about to go on, if I can quickly jump to that, I think that would be awesome. But like I said, you guys let me know down in the comments below. That would just be kind of the two things off the top of my head that I can think of. Benzie, again, if you've watched this, I really do appreciate you putting this out. I respectfully disagree with you in some of these areas, but overall, I also agree with you in a lot of areas. So either way, thank you guys so much for joining. Remember, kill marks are forever, and until next time, fly safe.